Lou stood in the middle of the living room at Heartland, her hands shaking, her voice steady but cold. I've already signed the papers. And in that moment, the air inside the ranch house felt heavier than a storm rolling over the fields of Hudson. No one was ready for what she said next. The fire was burning low in the stone fireplace, and the whole family had gathered after dinner. Jack sat in his usual chair, quiet but watchful. Amy leaned against the table, sensing something was wrong the moment Lou asked everyone to stay. Katie was on the couch, scrolling on her phone, not yet aware that her world was about to shift. Lou did not waste time. She stood straight, almost too straight, like she was holding herself together by force. Her eyes moved from Amy to Jack, then to Katie. She took a deep breath and said she had made a decision about Heartland. The word decision alone made Amy's stomach tighten. Lou explained that the ranch had been struggling more than they wanted to admit. Feed prices were up. Repairs were piling up. The old barn roof needed fixing before winter. She said they could not keep pretending that love and hard work were enough. Then she dropped the truth. She had agreed to lease a large piece of Heartland land to a development company from Hudson. They wanted to build a small eco-resort near the far pasture. Silence filled the room. Amy stared at her, trying to understand what she had just heard. That pasture was where Spartan used to run freely. That land was part of their history. Jack's jaw tightened, but he said nothing yet. Katie slowly lowered her phone. Lou rushed to explain. She said it would only be for part of the land, not all of it. She said the money would secure Heartland for years. No more worrying about bills. No more putting off repairs. She insisted this was not selling out. It was protecting their future. Amy finally spoke, her voice low but sharp. She asked Lou why she had not talked to them first. Lou answered that she knew they would try to stop her. She said sometimes being the one who makes hard choices means standing alone. Jack stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the dark fields. He reminded Lou that Heartland was not just property. It was family. It was memories. It was promises made long ago. Leasing that land meant strangers would build on it, change it maybe, even damage it. Lou's voice cracked for the first time. She said she was tired of always being seen as the one who makes mistakes. She wanted to be the one who saved Heartland for once. Amy stepped closer to her sister. She could see the fear behind Lou's strong face. This was not just about money. This was about proving something. About not feeling small anymore. Katie finally asked the question no one else had said out loud. What if it goes wrong? Lou swallowed hard. She admitted there was risk. The company had promised to respect the land. They had shown plans and reports. But contracts could not control everything. Still, she believed this was their best chance. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the windows like a warning. Inside, the family stood divided, not by hate, but by fear. And for the first time in a long while, Heartland did not feel safe. Lou had made her move. There was no going back. Lou did not sleep that night. While the rest of the house went quiet, she sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the signed contract in front of her. The paper looked simple, almost harmless, just words and numbers. But to her, it felt heavier than anything she had ever held. The porch light outside flickered softly, and through the window she could see the dark outline of the fields. The same land she had run across as a child. The same land her mother once protected with her whole heart.
Oh.
Lou closed her eyes for a moment, and the memories came rushing back. Birthday parties in the yard. Summer mornings filled with laughter. The sound of horses running free. She whispered to herself that she was not destroying those memories. She was protecting them. For months, Lou had been carrying a weight no one fully saw. Bills stacked in her office drawer. Repair estimates she kept delaying. Calls from suppliers asking about late payments. She had smiled through town meetings in Hudson, acting confident, acting in control. But inside, she felt like she was watching Heartland slowly sink, and she was the only one noticing the cracks. She thought about the times her ideas had failed before, the business risks that did not work, the moments people looked at her with doubt. Even when they forgave her, she never forgot the feeling. She was tired of being the one who almost made it work. She wanted something solid, something that proved she could lead without breaking everything. Earlier that week, she had met the development team in Hudson. They spoke calmly. They promised green building plans, limited construction, respect for the land. They talked about jobs for locals, new visitors for the town, stable income for the ranch. They made it sound like a partnership, not a takeover. But what stayed with Lou was one simple sentence from the lead investor. He told her that strong leaders act before it is too late. That sentence echoed in her mind again and again. She knew Amy would fight this. Amy believed in solving problems with heart and patience, and Lou admired that. But patience did not fix roofs. Love did not pay taxes. Lou felt like she was standing at a crossroads, and waiting felt more dangerous than moving. Jack's words from earlier that evening also replayed in her mind. Heartland is family. It is promises. His quiet disappointment hurt more than shouting would have. She hated that she might be the reason he lost sleep too. A tear slipped down her cheek before she quickly wiped it away. She was not afraid of hard work. She was afraid of failure. Afraid of watching Heartland struggle year after year while she stood by, doing nothing bold enough to change it. For the first time, she allowed herself to admit the truth. This decision was not only about saving the ranch, it was about saving herself from feeling small. The wind outside grew stronger, shaking the old barn doors in the distance. At the contract one more time, the ink was dry. The choice was real. But deep inside her chest, a quiet voice asked a question she could not ignore. What if being brave and being reckless were closer than she thought? By morning, the silence inside. Heartland felt colder than the air outside. Amy was already at the barn before sunrise, brushing down a nervous young horse that kept shifting under her touch. She worked with steady hands, but her mind was far from calm. Every stroke of the brush felt like she was trying to smooth out something much bigger than tangled hair. Lou walked in slowly, the sound of her boots against the barn floor echoing in the quiet space. For a moment, neither sister spoke. The only sound was the horse breathing and the soft rustle of hay. Amy did not turn around when she finally spoke. She asked Lou how much land she had signed over. Her voice was controlled, but it carried hurt. Lou answered that it was only the far pasture, the one near the trees. Amy stopped brushing. That pasture was not just land. It was where Spartan used to run after long training days. It was where they had buried pieces of their past and built. New hope. Amy turned then, her eyes filled with disbelief. She said Lou had no right to decide something that changed all their lives without even asking. Lou shot back that someone had to act before things got worse. She said Amy always believed things would somehow work out, but hope was not a plan. The words hit harder than either expected. Amy stepped closer, her voice rising. She said Heartland was built on trust, not quick deals. She reminded Lou that their mother fought to protect every inch of that land. Lou's face tightened at the mention of their mom. She said their mother also believed in adapting when times changed. The horse between them grew restless. Feeling the tension in the air, Lou admitted she was tired of feeling like the reckless one. She said every time she tried to lead, someone doubted her. She said maybe this time she wanted to make a choice without being told. She was wrong before she even began. Amy's expression softened for a brief second, but the fear in her heart stayed strong. She told Lou this was not about pride. It was about consequences. What if the company did not keep its promises? What if construction damaged the land? What if once they started building, it never stopped? Lou's voice cracked. As she said she had thought about all of that. She had read every page. She had asked questions. She was not being careless. She was trying to protect them from a slow fall they refused to see. The argument was no longer just about land. It was about control, about who gets to decide what Heartland becomes. It's about two sisters who both loved the same place but saw the future in different ways. Jack appeared at the barn door, but did not interrupt. He watched silently as the gap between his granddaughters seemed wider than the fields outside. Amy finally said something that hung in the air long after the words left her mouth. She told Lou that saving something should never mean changing. It's so much that you no longer recognize it. Lou stood still, her eyes shining with emotion she refused to let fall. She asked Amy a question in return. If doing nothing slowly destroys Heartland, is that really protecting it? Neither of them had an answer. And for the first time, being on the same side did not feel so simple anymore. The news did not stay inside the ranch for long. By afternoon, everyone in Hudson seemed to know. Amy first heard it from a client who arrived for a training session and casually mentioned the new eco-resort planned near Heartland. The words felt strange, like hearing a rumor about your own life before you are ready to face it. Amy forced a small smile, but inside her chest tightened. Meanwhile, Lou sat in her office staring at her phone as message after message came in. Some people congratulated her for bringing new business to the area. Others questioned her loyalty to the ranch's history. One message stood out. It was from the development company. They wanted to move up the first survey of the land. They said investors were excited and did not want delays. Excited, the word made Lou uneasy. Later that day, a black truck pulled up near the far pasture. Two men stepped out, holding maps and tools. They walked the land, placing small colored flags into the ground to mark future building spots. From a distance, the bright flags looked like tiny wounds across the grass. Jack watched from the fence. Lying, his expression hard. He said nothing as the men measured and took notes, but his silence carried weight. Amy stood beside him, feeling something shift inside her. This was no longer just paperwork. The land was already changing. Then another problem surfaced. Lou received a call from the company's finance officer. There had been a delay in one of their main backers transferring funds. It was only temporary, they said, but it meant construction might start before the first payment reached Heartland. Lou reminded them the contract promised upfront security. The officer assured her it was standard procedure. Standard procedure. Lou's confidence began to crack. That evening, she reviewed the contract again. The wording was careful, almost too careful. There was a clause about adjustments based on market shifts, another about shared responsibility for unforeseen costs. She had read them before, but now they felt sharper. Amy entered the office without knocking. She had just come from the pasture, where more flags had been planted. She told Lou the surveyors were planning a main road right through the lower field. Lou shook her head and said that was not in the original layout. Amy replied that plans change once building starts. The fear in Amy's voice was not anger anymore, it was warning. Before Lou could respond, Katie ran in, holding her tablet. She had seen comments online about the resort. Some people were already talking about future expansion, hotels, shops, even private cabins. Lou felt the room spin slightly. This was moving faster than she expected. Outside, heavy clouds rolled across the sky, dark and low. The wind carried the sound of distant thunder. It felt like the land itself was reacting. For the first time since signing the contract, Lou allowed herself to ask a question she had pushed away. What if she had opened a door that could not be closed? The risk was no longer a brave idea on paper. It was trucks in the driveway, flags in the grass, clauses in small print, and a future that suddenly felt uncertain. Heartland was changing, and it had only just begun. The storm finally broke just after sunset. Rain poured over Heartland, heavy and loud, washing across the fields where the bright survey flags still stood. Inside the house, the lights flickered once, then held steady. The calm inside the walls did not last. Katie sat at the kitchen table, pretending to do homework, but her pencil had not moved in minutes. She had heard enough whispered talks and sharp voices to understand that something big was happening. When Amy and Lou walked in from outside, soaked from the rain and silent, Katie looked up with wide eyes. She asked a simple question. Are we losing Heartland? What? The words cut deeper than any argument. Lou rushed to say no, that nothing was being lost. She explained again that the deal was meant to protect them, but her voice did not carry the same strong belief as before. Katie said she overheard kids in town talking about the resort. Some were excited. Others joked that Heartland would turn into a tourist stop. Amy saw the hurt in Katie's face. Heartland was not just land to her. It was home. It was safety. Before anyone could say more, a car pulled into the driveway. Headlights shone through the rain. Lou froze when she recognized it. Peter stepped inside moments later, shaking rain off his jacket. He had heard about the deal from someone in town and drove straight over. His face was calm, but his eyes searched Lou's for answers. They moved into the living room to talk. Amy stayed back with Katie, giving them space, but still close enough to hear raised voices if they came. Peter asked Lou if she had truly thought this through. He reminded her that big promises from companies often look perfect at first. Risk was not bad, but timing mattered. And right now, the ranch already felt unstable. Lou felt her defenses rising again. She told him she was not reckless. She was trying to be strong. She was trying to carry the weight instead of passing it around. Peter softened his tone. He said strength also means knowing when to slow down. He asked her quietly if this deal was about saving the ranch or about proving something to herself. That question broke through her walls. Lou looked away, her eyes filling despite her effort to stay composed. She admitted she was scared of watching Heartland slowly struggle. Scared of being seen as the weak link in the family, scared of failing her daughter. The storm outside grew louder, rain hitting the windows like steady drums. Inside, the truth finally settled in the room. This decision was no longer just about business. It was affecting trust, family balance, even Katie's sense of security. Amy stepped forward gently. She placed a hand on Lou's shoulder. There was no anger left in her expression now, only concern. For the first time since signing the contract, Lou did not speak like a leader defending her choice. She spoke like a sister and a mother who was unsure. She whispered that she thought she was doing the right thing. But now she was not so sure anymore. Morning came quietly after the storm. The damage was clear. The far pasture was soaked. The bright survey flags bent sideways in the mud. One of the temporary markers had washed loose and drifted toward the creek. Amy stood there early, boots sinking slightly into the wet ground, staring at the small red flag caught in the water. It looked fragile, out of place. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Lou dot for a long moment, neither sister spoke. The air smelled fresh after rain, but the tension between them still lingered. Lou looked smaller somehow, like the weight of the last few days had finally settled on her shoulders. Jack joined them soon after. Walking slowly with his hands in his jacket pockets, he studied the land, then turned to Lou. He did not raise his voice. He simply said that once something is built on land, it rarely goes back to the way it was. He reminded her that protecting Heartland did not only mean saving money, it meant protecting what made it special. Lou nodded, but her eyes stayed on the muddy field. She had received another call that morning. The company wanted to begin clearing part of the land within the week. They said delays would cost everyone more. They needed her final written approval to move forward faster. Everything felt like it was moving too fast. Amy stepped closer to her sister. This time, her voice was calm. She said she understood the fear of watching the ranch struggle. She admitted she had been so focused on the horses that maybe she did not see how heavy the business side had become for Lou. She told her that she did not see her as weak. She never had. Lou's eyes filled again, but this time she did not look away. She confessed that signing the contract had felt powerful for one brief moment, like she was finally taking control. But now, standing in the mud with the land marked for change, that power felt different. It felt like standing on the edge of something she might not be able to stop. Peter arrived quietly and stood beside Katie near the fence. Katie watched her mom with worried eyes. That look alone made Lou's heart ache. Jack spoke once more. Said courage is not just moving forward. Sometimes it is stepping back when your gut tells you to. He told her that no decision is worth losing peace inside your own home. The phone in Lou's pocket buzzed. Another message from the company asking for confirmation. She pulled it out slowly. Everyone watched. Her thumb hovered over the screen. One message would push everything ahead. Another message could pause it. Maybe even cancel it, though that would bring penalties and embarrassment in town. Lou looked at the pasture one last time. She imagined cabins, roads, strangers walking where her family once rode freely. She also imagined bills paid, repairs finished, less worry about the future. 2 futures stood in front of her. Finally, she lowered the phone and made her choice. Lou did not send the approval. Instead, she opened a new message and typed slowly. She informed the company that all construction and land clearing were on hold until further review. She wrote that Heartland would not move forward under pressure. Her hands trembled, but her words were clear. Then she pressed send. The wind moved softly across the wet pasture, as if the land itself had been waiting. Amy let out a breath she did not realize she was holding. Jack gave a small nod, the kind that carried pride without needing applause. Peter stepped closer to Katie, who watched her mother with wide eyes. Lou turned to face them all. She admitted that canceling completely might still happen. There would be meetings, there would be consequences. The company would not be happy. Some people in Hudson would call her foolish. But she said she would rather face town gossip than lose trust at home. Amy walked toward her sister and wrapped her arms around her. This time there was no argument, no tension, just relief. Lou held on tightly, as if she had almost lost something she could not replace. Later that evening, the family gathered in the living room again. The same room where everything had begun. The air felt different now. Not perfect, not solved, just honest. Lou explained that she still believed Heartland needed change. They could not ignore money problems forever. But from now on, every big step would be taken together. No more secret signatures. No more carrying fear alone. Jack said that Heartland had survived worse storms than this one. Not because they avoided risk, but because they faced it as a family. Katie finally smiled. For the first time in days, she asked if the horses would still be able to run in the far pasture. Lou knelt down and promised that for now they would. As night fell, Amy stepped outside onto the porch. Lou joined her. The sky was clear again, stars shining above the quiet land. The bent survey flags still stood in the field, reminders of how close everything had come to changing. Lou admitted softly that part of her still feared she had made the wrong choice. Amy replied that maybe the real change was not about buildings or money. Maybe it was about learning how to trust each other again. They stood side by side looking over Heartland. The future was still uncertain. Bills still needed paying. Decisions still waited ahead, but something important had shifted. Lou had almost changed the land forever. Instead, she changed something deeper. And as the camera slowly pulls back from the porch light, glowing against the dark fields of Heartland, one question lingers in the quiet night. If the next storm comes, will they be ready for it together?